much better. Yeah.
Yep.
See the difference?
Yep.
If I could get your attention again, please. We'll be starting momentarily. If you could start filling in a little bit. We still have some family members that are coming in, but if you're in here and you can find a seat toward the back, and if you're not got a red lanyard on or yellow, the back is where you need to sit. So please. So thank you for coming out today. If I can have your attention, we'll be starting in 5 minutes at 10:15. Last time, everybody, if you've got a seat, please go ahead and get seated. We are going to begin. So thank you very much, and we will start as soon as they get out here.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. For those that don't know who I am, my name is Shlomo Danziger, and I'm the mayor of Surfside. I would like to thank you all for joining us today. As we remember the 98 precious souls whose lives were cut short on this very spot during the tragic collapse of the Champlain Tower South 1 year ago. We will begin today's program with an invocation by Rabbi Shalom Lipsker, founder and spiritual leader of the Shul here in Surfside. The rabbi, together with the community, offered emotional and spiritual guidance through this ordeal and beyond. Rabbi Lipsker.
We are all gathered here on sacred ground, surrounded by our national, state, community leaders, and loving families and friends to commemorate and honor the 98 souls whose spiritual presence continues to permeate our hearts, minds, and environment. Reflecting on the moment at 2 a.m. when I was informed of the impending tragedy, it became the longest moment of my life, lasting for almost 30 long days, etching a scar in my being that remains forever. Our Holy Scriptures give insight with great emphasis on the power of prayer, even in the most challenging and difficult moments. How does one react to the prayers of a grandfather who desperately cries with every fiber of his heartbroken, anguished being, "God, I need you now. Please, God, I need you now," critically? Or the silent, tear-filled prayers of hundreds of search and rescue heroes, standing solemnly at attention, as their fellow team member lifts his lifeless child from the carnage of rubble known as the Holy Pile, and to countless prayers continuously uttered silently or with choking cries by thousands waiting with longing impatience for some sign of a positive response to life. There is no answer or any tangible response. Our minds cannot grasp any aspect of these unprecedented, desperate experiences that realign our entire attitude to life and purpose. Our intellect does not have the bandwidth or the capacity to comprehend the esoteric, mysterious spaces of our Creator's mindset, nor how he conducts the orchestra of life. It is why we do not pray with our minds or intellect. We pray with our hearts. Prayer is a cry from the heart to our beloved Father in heaven to direct his attributes of kindness, to overwhelm the attributes of severity, and to deal with us with absolute, revealed, unquestionable kindness, mercy, and benevolence. At this time, as we commemorate the unfathomable, unforgettable, painful loss of 98 pure, pristine souls, 98 worlds, whose eternal continuity merged at this location with their loving Father on high. Let us all join in prayer from our hearts for Almighty God to welcome them under his canopy of righteousness and goodness, and bring solace, consolation, and blessings to their beloved families who continue their important legacy. Let us also pray for the brave men and women who selflessly dedicated their lives to bring honor and dignity to our 98 holy brothers and sisters who have transformed to the archangels hovering in protective oversight over our community. And let us also pray for our entire community who served as a collective warm blanket of kinship that enveloped every person that was in need of the critical goodness, kindness, warmth, caring, empathy, compassion, and selflessness that became the hallmark of our community and reverberated throughout the world. It is a certainty that prayers do not remain unanswered, and God does not overlook any tear. May it be the will of our merciful Father that only kindness and goodness continues to spread its influence in our midst, and that all darkness and negativity will be banished as light will flourish and herald the ultimate immediate redemption with peace of mind and soul here and all over the world.
Thank you, Rabbi Lipsker, for those beautiful words. Distinguished guests, first responders, friends, and neighbors, thank you for joining us here today as we remember the 98 lives that were lost here 1 year ago. To the families here today mourning their loved ones, and my neighbors who lost their friends and their past, I thank you for your courage. I cannot begin to imagine how emotional and difficult it must be for you all to be here today on this site. Thank you for your bravery. I have been in politics for 3 months. It hasn't been easy, but it's nothing I can't handle. Growing up, I had a rough upbringing, but I was stubborn and I was a fighter. I can count on one hand how many times I've cried in my life, but one of those times was after my grandfather, who was like a father to me, passed away when I was 17. We had just finished burying him, and while we were walking out of the cemetery, I burst out crying. But it wasn't the pain of his loss that made me cry. It was the thought that in a year or two, the pain would be gone, and I would forget and life would go on without him. But I could tell you here today that in the last 26 years, not a day has gone by that I haven't thought of him. Every event or milestone in my life, good or bad, brings back the pain and the realization that he's missing from my life. The collapse of the Champlain Towers South that night happened a matter of moments, but its effects will last a lifetime. As a small town of 8 blocks, we all had ties to somebody in that building. The entire town felt the loss of our neighbors, the pain of the families as they waited for their news of their loved ones, and the despair of the residents who were left homeless overnight with nothing but the shirts on their backs. But no one felt the loss as much as you. You had a piece of your hearts torn out that night, leaving a gaping hole that could never be filled. As you find the courage to continue on, your child, your parent, your sibling, your loved one will be missing from your life, absent from graduations, missing at weddings, and no longer around just to call and say hello. You must live with the painful realization that all their hopes and dreams were cut short. But my message to you here today is to tell you that they will continue to live on in you. Every graduation, every wedding, every milestone, every day, you will feel the pain of their absence. You will be thinking of them. Your loved one will always be a part of you. They will never be forgotten, and the town of Surfside will never forget. 98 precious souls forever in our hearts. The town of Surfside was once an obscure little enclave hiding along the Florida coast. The tragic collapse of the Champlain Towers South threw Surfside out into the world stage. But it was a visit by the President of the United States and the First Lady who came to console the families that put our small town on the map. The compassion and tenderness they showed towards the families when they were here was inspirational. We are truly honored to have the First Lady joining us today, and we appreciate the lengths that she has undertaken to be here with us. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to introduce the First Lady of the United States, Dr. Jill Biden.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Danziger, Governor and Casey DeSantis, Congresswoman Wasserman Schultz and Wilson, Mayor Cava, and all the leaders who are with us today. Good morning. Hidden in the crowds, scattered throughout workplaces, grocery stores, and parks, there is a fellowship of loss. To the uninitiated, we look normal, average, whole. But like a secret handshake, I can spot them by the sadness that rests at the corner of their smile, by the curve of their shoulders, as if they can still feel the small arms of a child wrapping their arms around their neck. And though we are strangers, we know untellable truths about one another, that we will spend the rest of our lives longing for a face that is gone forever, and that when they left our world, they took a light inside of us with them. They are some of who might say that hurt fades over time, but we know that's not true. There is a collapsed star spinning inside of us, and we will forever live in its gravity. The things we carry are heavier now, and 1 year later, or many years later, our knees sometimes buckle beneath the weight of our grief. Still, we have discovered moments of grace, too. Somehow, against all odds, we rise from the floor. We find a fortitude that we didn't know we had, and we reach out for help. We realize that we're not alone. Today, we gather to remember the 98 people lost. On behalf of my husband, President Biden, whose hearts and prayers have never left this community, we stand by you today and always. And as we gather, we express gratitude for this community, the firefighters and first responders who bound up wounds and spent weeks working to recover your loved ones. Yes. The members of Surfside who came together to embrace you, who prayed for you every night and wrapped their arms around you. The Americans from across our country who donated and found ways to spread kindness. We honor the light you found in each other, a fellowship that you never wanted to be a part of, but draw strength from just the same. If there is something strong enough to help us carry this burden of grief forward, something able to break its gravitational pull, it's love. The love that makes us tell that story one more time, that makes us laugh with tears in our eyes, and knows a part of them is still inside of us, even though they left before we were done needing them. The love of friends and family who refuse to leave us alone, who remind us that joy can be found even in sorrow. The love of a community that lifts us when we're weak, that carries us. Take it one breath at a time. We are praying for you, and we are grieving with you. God bless you.
Thank you, Madam First Lady. I now have the distinct honor of introducing our governor of the great state of Florida, Ron DeSantis, who is joining us here today with his dear wife, Casey, who, thank God, is healthy and well and with us here today. We are so grateful. At the time of the collapse, I was not the mayor, but an active citizen. I watched with awe as I saw our governor spend time with the families almost daily, showing warmth and compassion, not as a senior political figure, but as a shoulder to cry on and somebody to talk to. Those images of leadership resonated with me and with the rest of the community. Ladies and gentlemen, the Governor, Ron DeSantis.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Thank you very much. Thank you. Well, 1 year ago, I got a call at about 3 a.m., and when you're governor, the 3 a.m. calls are usually not positive calls. The report was that there had been a partial collapse of a condominium complex down in South Florida, and I knew that was serious. The images in my mind for how it was described to me is maybe some balconies had fallen or something that was potentially manageable. As I made my way down here, I started to see images on TV, and it looked more serious than that. But it didn't hit me the full gravity. I don't think you could appreciate it until you were on this ground looking at it. It was a massive collapse. And these guys, the first responders, were there from the wee hours of the morning. They saved people from the adjacent tower, and they were there working on that pile, doing whatever they could to try to save anybody who may have been a survivor. And I remember standing out a day or two later. You'd see smoke, and it was a tough situation. And so we had the people not only from Miami-Dade, we had teams end up coming from all over the state of Florida and even other states come to help. And so, as governor, I just want to say thank you for stepping up and being there. It was not an easy job as a first responder. It was very emotional. I think it took a toll on a lot of people. But I think you showed why in the state of Florida we respect what you do so much. So from our state, just thank you for being there when people needed you. And that was one example, but you saw an entire community mobilize in support of, obviously, families who were wondering what happened with their loved ones, other families who were displaced, and you had individuals step up. You had organizations, all the religious groups stepped up and it got to the point where there was a surplus of people that were wanting to donate items. And so I think that speaks a lot about this community in Surfside, also the greater community in South Florida. But we had people really from all across the state. And so in a very difficult time, you saw a lot of great parts of humanity coming forward to help those in need. And so I was very humbled to be able to see that in the state I'm fortunate to represent. And of course, we did have folks who were able to evacuate the other tower. They're all of a sudden left without their possessions. They're left without a roof over their head. And that was a very difficult and traumatic time. And I know we had a lot of people on the ground helping them. I know a lot of money was raised helping them. But that was very, very difficult. And we did what we could, of course, from our office. The local folks did a lot. And then, of course, all our private organizations. But, of course, the devastating aspect of this is losing 98 great individuals. And if you look at the folks who were in Champlain Towers South who passed away that day, they really represented a cross-section of the state of Florida. You had young professionals that were just starting their lives. You had families with kids. You had grandparents who were retired. Some had been longtime residents. Others had been relatively new to the area. They had connections, of course, not just in other parts of our state and country, but they had connections from all over the world, and they represented many different faiths. And I can tell you, when we were waiting those initial days with the hope that some would be rescued, it provided an opportunity for people to learn about some of these individuals. And I can tell you this, people who've never been to Surfside, people who've never even been to the state of Florida, were inspired about the stories and the lives that those 98 people led. They made an impact on their friends, on their family, on their communities, and beyond. And so we really thought it was important at the state of Florida to make sure that their memories live on. And so I was happy in our budget to ask the legislature to dedicate an initial $1 million towards a memorial that can be constructed on this site. And I'm happy to report that was included in the budget that I signed into law. And we also, so that people realize, because before this happened, you go up and down these streets, you see these condo buildings, you don't really think anything of it. But, you know, each little unit really represented a remarkable life and a remarkable story. And so we want to make sure that people understand that. And so we are going to be able to now designate this portion of Collins Avenue, 98 Points of Light Road. So every time people drive by, they're going to be reminded that there were great people that lived in that tower, and that this is a tragedy that wounded this community and our state, but we are not going to forget what they meant to this community and our state, and this sign is a small token to do that. So I want to thank you all for coming to remember the 98, and God bless their memory, and God bless Surfside in the state of Florida.
Thank you. Means a lot. I know cameras, the banner may have to come down soon. It would be nice to have something hanging up there until we get a memorial put up. I would like to introduce our Lieutenant Governor, Jeanette Nunez. Although her title says lieutenant, she stands on her own 2 feet with grace, strength, and dignity. She has been instrumental in helping those affected navigate the bureaucratic complexities and executing their agenda during this time. Ladies and gentlemen, our Lieutenant Governor, Jeanette Nunez.
Good morning. Thank you to all that are gathered here on this solemn day, Governor, all of our elected leaders. We join together in remembering those 98 lives. We remember our hometown heroes that were immediately on the scene, witnesses to an unspeakable tragedy. We remember the urban search and rescue teams that came from all over the country to assist in a grueling task that they are well trained for, but never truly prepared to deal with what they experienced here. We remember the outpouring of support from the international community, in particular our friends from Israel, the Israeli Defense Forces. The Israeli Defense Forces, United Hatzalah, that provided so much comfort and support to the community. We remember every first responder and emergency management personnel that worked around the clock, responding to this tragedy and yet sharing in the collective grief. And most importantly, we remember the families, friends, and loved ones of those 98 innocent lives. For them, for those of you that are here today, time has stood still. Although everything changed in our state that day, we found a way to muster up the strength and the courage to call upon the values that we share: compassion, perseverance, and resilience. You see, Champlain Tower South was more than just a building, more than just a place of residence. It was truly a microcosm of our South Florida community. The victims, as well as the survivors, come from all walks of life, near and far, different cultures, different religions, different backgrounds, but none of that matters. And 1 year later, we still grieve. We're united in our faith, in one another, and on our community. The scripture says, God is our refuge and our strength, an ever-present help in trouble. Therefore we will not fear, though the earth give way, and the mountains fall into the heart of the sea, though its waters roar and foam, and the mountains quake with their surging. The Lord Almighty is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress. May we bind those words in our heart. May we reflect on the meditations of the psalmist and rejoice even in the valley of the shadows of death. And may the memory of those beautiful 98 souls always be a blessing. I pray that God continues to provide comfort to those that are brokenhearted. God bless you all.
Thank you. I would like to introduce Debbie Wasserman Schultz, U.S. Representative from Florida's 23rd Congressional District, which is Surfside. While she advocates for our district in Congress, behind the scenes, Congresswoman Schultz has been listening to the voices of those who were affected by this monumental tragedy and has been an advocate and a fighter for their cause. Ladies and gentlemen, Congresswoman Schultz.
Thank you so much, Mayor. 1 year ago, a literal nightmare occurred here. The Champlain Towers South collapse took 98 lives and upended hundreds more. Countless tears fell into the ground around us, and our community continues to recover to this day. Whether it's families here in South Florida, or New York, or Argentina, Venezuela, or Israel, this tragedy has reached across the globe. From the moment this unprecedented collapse occurred and still to this day, first responders, medical personnel, engineers, grief counselors, and caseworkers have painstakingly worked to provide support to the families and conduct a thorough investigation. Our governments and countless generous volunteers, charitable organizations, and individual donors help support the Surfside community and all those affected. Especially Mayor Daniela Levine Cava, who showed steadfast leadership each day, all day, and into the night. Mayor Levine Cava, countless family members told me how grateful they were for your leadership, your patience, your compassion through what was the most difficult time in their lives. You kept our community informed and provided guidance throughout the rescue and recovery efforts, and we are a safer and kinder community with you at the helm. Thank you so much. Thank you. And I also want to acknowledge Senator Jason Pizzo, who was the lead sponsor of the legislation that named the street this section of Collins Avenue. Thank you for your incredible leadership and stewardship through the legislative session. I must also thank President Biden. Dr. Biden, thank you for being here. Thank you to you and President Biden for coming down immediately in the aftermath of the tragedy and being there for our people, spending the painstaking time that it took to, and I watched you go person to person as someone who has felt personal grief yourself along with the President, to make sure that you showed empathy and that you would commit, as the President did, to see this tragedy all the way through and continue to help to this day. Thank you so very much. As a result of President Biden's effort, resources that were absolutely essential to make sure that we could do everything we could were never in doubt. And of course, our remarkable, relentless first responders who searched around the clock in horrific conditions to find even one survivor. These heroic teams joined us from as far off as Israel and Mexico. So thank them too, as I know we do every single day. Survivors, victims, friends and family, and even first responders all experienced severe emotional trauma, as many lost loved ones, homes, pets, or cherished personal belongings. I know many of you still struggle with the immense personal loss and emotional toll that something of this magnitude brings, and I know that will continue. So I stand here with this entire community to embrace you and remind you that I will continue to support you for as long as it takes. You will have needs. We will be there every step of the way, as long as you need it. Thank you. Progress has thankfully been made to help get to the bottom of this tragedy and to ensure that it never happens again. In Congress, we will continue to pursue policy changes that will weave an even tighter safety net for condominium residents. That is so incredibly essential. Now, while we honor all those we lost 1 year ago today, I know the love and solidarity that springs from this sorrow made us stronger. And if we act boldly, it will protect so many more from similar suffering. In my faith tradition, there is a saying, Chazak, Chazak, finis Chazak. Be strong, let us be strengthened. May those who lost their sanctuary here that night find personal strength and strength from our community. And the memories of those we lost continue to be a blessing. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Senator Jason Pizzo has always been here for our community and has always just been a phone call away. But after the collapse and during the weeks that followed, he became a permanent fixture here in Surfside. I watched as he interacted with the families and community leaders. I watched him advocate for resources and help those providing aid cut through the red tape. It was truly a privilege to witness such dedication, passion, and leadership from our Senator, Jason Pizzo. Thank you.
I called the mayor yesterday and volunteered not to speak today because I knew I'd get a little emotional. It's wonderful to see the First Lady of the United States, but sentimentally, it's wonderful to see the First Lady of the state of Florida. And I'll tell you why. I wasn't here every day. I missed one day, Thursday, July 1st. It was my father's 80th birthday. It was also the day that I found out that he was diagnosed with terminal cancer. The very last email he sent to me, and I think there's only 2 people here that know that, was to make sure that I checked in on Mrs. DeSantis to make sure that she was okay. That was his last email. I got here very early, and the very first person I met was Carlos Nebrayev. He was wearing a blue polo shirt soaked through with sweat and tears, saying, "Just let me on that pile. Who are you? What power do you have? What control do you have? Let me on that pile. My son Elon is on that pile." The very first images of helicopters overhead is me standing about 30 feet over here to the left. And my mom calls me and she says, "When are you getting on the pile?" 10 days before this happened, rather blessed circumstance, the governor joined us at the shul and signed Hatzala into law. Thank you. It must be mentioned that Jewish community services of this community began and will continue to serve the mental health needs of every individual here. I actually didn't want to speak because I did not want to get emotional. But I'll never forget the night that Pablo Langesfeld and Martin sitting behind me, finally, they identified Nicole's body. Over and over and over again. So last year is about losing 99, the 98 souls here, and my dad who passed on October 15th. And one day Carlos walks into my office, and I said, "Carlos, do we have an appointment?" He goes, "No. You lost your father. I'm here for you, like you were here for us." Let me say this, and it's because I think I'm half Italian. Let's not make tragedy be the time that we get together and not have petty partisanship. Let's not make loss be the time that we come together and embrace and get things done. Let's just stick to the stuff that's important. Because every single one of us here would like to take the days back that we lost with our loved ones. And I do need to mention Kevin Guthrie, who took over for Jared Moskowitz at the Department of Management Services. Kevin Guthrie was here every day until he went home and saw his mother, who passed August 24th. I want to thank all of you. While I helped you get your driver's license and death certificates and probate filings and housing and clothes, and the governor was very receptive on executive orders for forgiveness of a number of things, I want to thank all of you. As I watched my father waste away and die, it was the strength of being able to help you and help your lives and your families rebuild and begin again and begin anew. But I will say this. I want to thank the Miami-Dade County Homicide Unit, and I have to explain why. I used to be a homicide prosecutor here in Miami-Dade County, so I know most of the crew. And I want to tell you this, the care, concern, sensitivity that they treated and the dignity of every single person who was lost here. Sometimes to your disappointment or your anger that things were not getting done fast enough. But I want you to know that they were tediously, painfully, and passionately taking care of every single possible family and identity they possibly could. So the whole world came to Surfside to help. Most of the world will leave after today. As each year passes, I was a Manhattan resident during 9/11. Memories fade. The passion lives. But for each one of you family members, I will tell you this, as I used to tell family members of homicide victims, especially children, the pain never goes away. There is no closure. There is no explanation. there's just the healing and the remembrance to take the ones that we still have living and cherish them and love them and forgive them. And I see Noriega's family here, standing right over there in that building for several straight days waiting to see Hilda, who was 92 years old, who was lost here. Folks, embrace one another, love one another, relax on the other stuff, and just be good and true. And thank you for being here.
Thank you. As a newly elected mayor, Mayor Cava was thrust into perhaps one of the most challenging situations and one could fathom. But her leadership, execution, and deep concern for those affected was evident at every press conference, every meeting with the families, and every difficult decision she had to make along the way. Ladies and gentlemen, Mayor Miami-Dade County, Mayor Cava.
So 1 year ago today, we all know that our community was rocked by an unimaginable tragedy when Champlain Tower South collapsed in the middle of the night. 98 beautiful lives were lost. Parents, grandparents, daughters, sons, beloved friends, and neighbors, taken from us far too soon. Hace un año, nuestra comunidad sufrió una tragedia inimaginable y perdimos 98 hermanos, hermosas vidas que se fueron demasiado pronto. So we've joined together today on this sacred ground to remember those we lost and to honor all of those whose lives were changed forever that day. Those who lost everything, and the families who lost their cherished loved ones. The memories of June 24th and the weeks that followed will stay with me forever, as I know they will with all of us here today. To those in pain, our hearts ache for you now as they did a year ago. We continue to stand with you, and we will do all we can to support you in the long journey back from your loss. Nos reunimos hoy para recordar a los que perdimos y honrar a quienes sus vidas cambiaron para siempre este día. Los que lo perdieron todo y las familias que perdieron a sus seres queridos, sus seres queridos. Nuestros corazones duelen por ustedes ahora como lo hicieron hace un año. Continuamos apoyándolos en el largo camino del duelo. So today, we also remember the sacrifice and the courage of our first responders. They rushed into a collapsing building to save lives. They gave everything in the search and rescue operation on this site. As mayor of Miami-Dade County, I am extraordinarily proud of the men and women of Miami-Dade Fire Rescue who were the first onto the pile in the middle of the night of June 24th and who continued to lead the operation in the weeks that followed, day in and day out. These are the very finest first responders in the world that were deployed here at Surfside. And they were not just from Miami-Dade. They came from around the country and from around the world, including our partners with the IDF, who arrived on site within hours of the collapse. And we are forever grateful for the extraordinary partnership and support of Israel. To each member of the IDF, and each member, thank you. And to each member of the IDF who traveled across the globe to be with us in our hour of need. So, to the hundreds of first responders who worked here around the clock, your dedication and your selflessness were on full display to the entire world. And in the blistering heat, in the pouring rain, through fire and smoke, and against all odds, you poured your heart and soul into the rescue and recovery to get the job done. And I also want to thank all the public servants at all levels who united as never before to ensure that every resource that was needed was brought to bear. To the President, Joe Biden, and our First Lady, Jill Biden, thank you for being with us here today. Thank you for being with us from the beginning. Thank you for being with us always. Thank you. The President activated federal support on day one, within just hours of the collapse, to make sure that we had every tool that we needed and that we could stand in solidarity and in mourning in the days after the building fell. So thank you to FEMA. Administrator Criswell was with us and her team. They played a key role in the long road to recovery. And they still continue to support the families as we all are on our quest for answers and accountability. Yes, thank you. To our governor, Ron DeSantis, his wonderful wife, Casey, to our lieutenant governor, our chief financial officer, to our senators, Pizzo, Book, our congresswoman, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, they were with us here. And thank you for joining us, Mayor Danziger for convening us, and Mayor Burkett for being with us every day. Thank you. I want to assure you that Miami-Dade County remains every bit as committed today as we were 1 year ago to do everything we can to try to bring closure. And to Judge Hansman, who's with us on the stage, thank you for your heroic efforts. Our teams, our police, have spent thousands of hours painstakingly sifting through the rubble by hand, in the heat, in the rain, looking for any remains, any property that can be recovered. And even today, teams from our Miami-Dade Police Department are still there, continuing the search. For so many of the first responders who searched the pile as if they were looking for their own loved ones, we know you too continue to wrestle with the memories of those days. And we remain committed to ensuring that you have the tools you need to heal and recover. So, this anniversary brings us together again in remembrance as we say to the families now, as we said to you since day one, you are not alone. We hold you in grief. Your loved ones will not be forgotten. We also stand strong in our commitment to continue leading the way on safety, strengthening building standards, ensuring that a tragedy like this can never, ever happen again. The stories of all of the families who survived the unthinkable and the heroes who gave everything in the search stand as powerful reminders that in the face of great sorrow and unthinkable loss of life, our capacity for hope and love will see us through the darkest days. To all of those watching here and around the world, please pray for our community. We pray for those whose lives were changed forever. And we hope that everyone who survived this tragedy will find peace, and that the memories of those that we've lost will guide and strengthen us now and in all the days ahead. A todos que nos están viendo aquí y el resto del mundo, oren por nuestra comunidad. Oremos para que las familias y los sobrevivientes de esta tragedia encuentren la paz y que los recuerdos de quienes perdimos nos guíen y fortalezcan ahora y siempre. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Consul General Mayor Elbaz Sterinsky started his position in Miami only days before the tragic collapse. From the moment it happened, the Consul General rushed to the community center to lend aid and support. He rented a hotel room here in Surfside and did not leave until everybody had gone. But more than that, he, together with Senator Rick Scott, was responsible for executing the successful deployment of the Israeli search and rescue team led by Colonel Golan Bach to the town of Surfside. So we thank you.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, dearest bereaved families. As an Israeli IDF veteran and a father of 5, I'm no stranger to being woken up in the middle of the night. However, there was something different in that phone call at 2 a.m. on June 24th, just 4 days into my tenure as Israel's Consul General in Miami. That sobering call ended the 4 days of grace I had in my new position. Arriving on site a few hours later shook me to the core and threw me, my body and soul, into weeks of the forging fire of a terrible disaster and into weeks of anguish, courage, and brotherhood. What I saw and witnessed over those weeks tell in a million voices what pain and agony looks like, and at the same time exemplify the greatness of individual and of the community. I have witnessed the leadership and courage of everybody involved, elected officials, first responders, professionals, and so many good Samaritans, including making sure that the Israeli team arrived. So many people, Jews and non-Jews, Israelis and non-Israelis, professionals and volunteers came together and showed us what it means to live up to the values of this wonderful country that we talk about so often. I've witnessed the unbreakable bond between the United States and the State of Israel. This bond yielded the first ever foreign military mission on U.S. soil. The State of Israel is proud and humbled to have been given the privilege to give back, if only a fraction, of the support that we get from the United States. We are looking forward to further strengthening this bond during President Biden's upcoming visit to the State of Israel, and are hoping to welcome Governor DeSantis and the First Lady, I hope, in Israel again soon. But important of all, I witnessed the grief and pain of the families. Grief and pain that one can't really fathom. Weeks of hope that were shattered, leaving you, dear families, and the community as a whole in shambles. Dear families, we heard you and reported to perform our human duty and our Jewish virtue of tikkun olam. I urge you, don't fade away. The only way to continue is to be. We hugged, we dug, and we, our nation, our people, our military, are standing here with you today, just as we did 1 year ago, and just as we will forever do. God bless America, God bless Israel, and God bless you.
First Lady, all elected officials, friends, and most important of all, families. For the past year, every morning as I put on my boots, I'm reminded of Surfside, which is due to a deep gash I have on my right boot. I remember the day and the time that the boot was cut. I was working here, just here, with a great American commander, Jim Dobson. It was on the 12th day of our operation, apartment 12, second floor. All of the piercing irons were exposed and very sharp. It was there that my boot was cut. Since then, every morning, as I proudly put on my IDF uniform, I remember you, and I will never forget you. Dear families, the burden on your shoulders is almost unbearable. We came here today from Jerusalem to let you know that you were not alone then and that you are not alone today. And to acknowledge that when we rise in the morning, know that there is a reason. And that reason is each and every one of us has a significant role to play in this world. So thank you, and God bless you all.
Although his title of CFO alludes to the numbers and digits, Mr. Petronas' humanity and personal concern to do whatever was in his power to help ease the pain of those who were affected was evident during those challenging weeks after the collapse. Amongst his many responsibilities, Mr. Petronas directs and oversees the urban search and rescue team, the USAR teams, across the state of Florida, which responded to 1 year ago. I'd like to introduce Mr. Petronas.
Thank you, Mayor. The Surfside building collapse is one of those events that's going to stick with us forever, every single detail of it. When the Champlain Tower South collapsed, I was already in South Florida with meetings. I even had my 12-year-old son with me, Theo. While we honor and mourn the 98 souls that are no longer with us, we pray for the parents, the brothers, the sisters, the children that were left behind that are trying to put back some type of normal. I saw the work of God when hundreds of Florida's urban search and rescue team members fought and kept fighting for any signs of hope of life. The response effort led by these first responders from our state, our nation, and the world was historic. More than 800 members from state and federal task forces served in part of this mission. With nearly 400 urban search and rescue members from the state of Florida alone, it was the largest deployment ever in the history of the state of Florida that was not hurricane related. They worked 12-hour shifts in the Miami summer, cutting rebar, cutting concrete, filling 5-gallon buckets with debris, hand by hand. And at the same time, they were picking up wedding pictures and children's toys. They battled fire, they battled rain, they battled the heat. Their boots and their gloves were destroyed. They had to keep respirators on to fight the same cancer-causing substances that caused cancer after 9/11. And in fact, some of these same men and women served at 9/11. And then there were the priests and the rabbis, who, in my opinion, were the unsung heroes at Surfside. On that mountain of rubble, we saw hell on earth. But we also saw God's presence and the men and women who fought with every ounce of their being to save lives. Surfside was a tragedy on a mass scale, and it's going to stick with every single one of us forever. Every one of us mourns, every one of us feels pain, and we all deal with it differently. But from this tragedy, I've improved my relationship with my God and the Greek Orthodox Church. As we pray for the grace and the peace, may we never, ever forget and honor those 98 souls.
From the moment this horrific tragedy unfolded, Chief Kaminsky immediately deployed and oversaw the entire fire rescue operation at Ground Zero. His tireless efforts gave hope to many families that nothing would stand in the way of finding their loved ones. I'd like to call up Chief Alan Kaminsky of Miami-Dade Fire.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is very humbling to be here today. A day particularly difficult and emotional to each and every one of us. As we gather here today to remember the 98 souls who we tragically lost and taken from us way too soon. 98 families who suffered a tremendous loss and are forever changed following the tragic collapse of the Chaplain Tower South a year ago. We also recognize the tremendous impact this tragedy had on all the other families affected by the collapse. And to these families, I want to say, time may not heal all wounds, as the saying goes, as we will never be the same. For on that day, a piece of our souls will forever hurt for those who are no longer here, and for those who are here and whose lives were forever changed. So many were affected by this tragedy, and the scars extend into the lives of those men and women who selflessly searched throughout the rubble with hopes to save lives. The same men and women who day in and day out serve our community. The same individuals who call this place home, and many who will forever be haunted by the memories of those days. When our initial first responding units arrived on scene and saw that 2/3 of a building had collapsed to the ground and that the people that were still inside needed to immediately evacuate the structure, our brave men and women selflessly rose to the challenge and without hesitation entered the building, putting themselves in harm's way, risking their own lives in order to save the life of others, to bring everyone to safety. All without knowing if the remaining 1/3 of the structure would remain standing and uncertain on whether they would make it out of the building. Our crews performed courageously during those initial moments, searching unit after unit for survivors, determined to get everyone out. Others searched the rubble, removing victims, because every single life saved was a treasure to our first responders. These were some of the split-moment decisions being made, and their efforts led to the rescue of 37 people that morning. These crews performed courageously during those initial moments and throughout all of our operations during our response. And as their fire chief, this makes me incredibly proud. Today, I'd like to take a moment and salute them for their bravery and for going above and beyond in the face of extreme dangers with so much uncertainty what the outcome might be. They didn't do this alone. Law enforcement officers from multiple jurisdictions bravely assisted with rescue efforts, and for this, we thank you. I would be remiss if I didn't mention all the other local fire rescue and police agencies that descended over Surfside on that day and the weeks to follow. Thank you all for your camaraderie and for your support. Urban search and rescue teams who were deployed quickly to Surfside continue the task started by Miami-Dade Fire Rescue. We are extremely fortunate to be home of two of the best search and rescue teams in the county, Florida Task Force 1 and Florida Task Force 2. Soon after, all the Florida Task Force teams followed, as well as federal teams from Ohio, Indiana, Pennsylvania, Virginia, and New Jersey arrived with hundreds of task force members ready to assist. International assistance came from Mexico, and elite members of the IDF arrived from Israel to offer assistance and share their knowledge. Day in and day out, these men and women mobilize all kinds of equipment, working 12-hour shifts, conducting extensive search and rescue operations, cutting through concrete and working through dangerous conditions, including extreme heat, rain, an impending hurricane, and the threat of a secondary building collapse in order to continue to search for precious life under the rubble. This unthinkable tragedy, the deadliest building catastrophe in South Florida history, happened right in our backyard and left a physical, a mental, an emotional toll on all of us in more ways than we could have ever imagined. The magnitude of what took place during the early morning hours of that tragic day and a year later is still very difficult to deal with the profound heartbreak we experienced that day. What took place here in Surfside has been one of the most traumatic events that our community and our department have ever experienced, that we will never forget. It's taken our MDFR family, our community, our nation, and the world to its core. In closing, I'd like to take this opportunity to personally thank the families for having us here today and for sharing this very special, private, difficult, and emotional moment with us. Additionally, I'd like to also thank the brave men and women of Miami-Dade Fire Rescue and all other first responders who are the true heroes in our profession and who continue to do the very best for our community. And to the families present here today, know that since day one, you have and will continue to be in our hearts. Know that no matter how much time has passed, each one of you and your family members will always be part of us. Thank you.
Israel's Home Front Command was established for a simple purpose: to save lives. It operates search and rescue missions in Israel and around the world, aiding in rescue and recovery. Its leader is here with us today, and it's a privilege to introduce Major General Ori Gordon.
First Lady, elected officials, first responders, friends, and family members. Thou did call in trouble, and I rescued thee, from the book of Psalms. Dear families, dear brothers and sisters, people of Surfside community, it was a peaceful, regular, early summer night. No one could have foreseen this devastating collapse that shook your lives and changed them forever. 98 lives, 98 souls, 98 unfulfilled hopes and stories that were buried under the rubble pile of Champlain Towers South in Collins Avenue. I know that there is no cure for your pain and that words could not ease or comfort your loss. But on behalf of the State of Israel, on behalf of the Israeli Defense Forces, and on behalf of the IDF Homefront Command, I want to offer our deep and sincere condolences. Although as rescuers, we always believe there is still hope, unfortunately, now we can say with certainty that no one of the collapse victims could have been rescued alive. But what we were able to do, to help do, was to more accuracy and faster allocate the missing people and set the closure for you, the families. We could not be here if not for the brave and humble leadership of Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and Miami-Dade County Mayor Daniela Levine Cava. You reached out for help, and we sent our best search and rescuers, a small delegation with extreme expertise in the field and professionalism. You led out this operation with sensitivity and immense determination. You trusted us, and we did our best to reply. Our delegation, led by Colonel Golan Vach, helped in two main efforts. The first, allocating the missing person in the rubble pile and helping to extract them out. This effort was led by Chief Alan Kaminsky, a great leader and a partner. And of course, the professional and vigorous action of the hundreds of first responders from the Miami-Dade and all over the country. And moreover, the Florida Task Force 1 and Task Force 2, whom from we've learned quite a bit. The second effort, led by Colonel Elad Edri, and backed by a technological branch in Israel, was with the families, trying to gather as much information as we could to help the teams on the site to allocate the missing more accurately. Again, we find great partnership from the Miami-Dade Police Department and the effort led by Chief Ray Jadala, who with great sensitivity and accuracy led this mission. On behalf of our delegation, I want to thank the Hatzalah, Yedidim, and Zaka organization who enveloped and protected us during these 2 weeks' relentless efforts. And also to express our gratitude to the Jewish communities of Surfside and Bell Harbor for taking us in and making us feel at home. At last but not least, to Surfside Mayor Shlomo Danziger for your full and complete support then and even now by inviting us and making our arrival possible. The United States and Israel are far more than friends and partners. Our mutual commitment is embedded deeply. And I am certain that the partnership made between us and Miami-Dade, between us and Florida task forces will grow and flourish. The course of things during these 2 weeks in June influenced deeply on everyone that was involved. Mutual pain and grief, being together in distressed times, created lifelong of brotherhood and commitment. Dear families, we share your grief and pain. We stand here, bowing our heads in the memory of your loved ones. Thank you for opening your hearts and letting us in. May you never know such sorrow again. And as for us, when the next call to help will be heard, we will answer without hesitation, as we are committed to reach out and help anyone in trouble and to fulfill our calling to rescue whomever is in need. Thou did call in trouble, and I rescued thee.
I would just like to take a second and acknowledge the attendance of Mayor Dan Gelber from Miami Beach, Mayor Suarez from City of Miami, and Chair Pepe Diaz from Miami-Dade County. These are our neighboring cities, and without you providing the vital aid and support, we wouldn't have been able to move forward as easily. So thank you. We are here today to remember the 98 souls. We are honored and privileged to have the opportunity to hear from a few of the family members who will share their stories of their loved ones and give us a glimpse into these extraordinary people. I would like to call up Luis Bermudez, father of Luis Bermudez, who was 26.
Good morning to everyone. My condolences to all the parents and family members who lost their loved ones that 24th of June. My deepest condolence to the fathers and mothers who lost their sons and their daughters. I'm going through that pain, through that suffering, and there's no words for it. Luillo was 26 years old and a half when he died, when he passed away. I was blessed of raising him for 24 years. And he was my warrior and he's still my hero. Luillo, son, you're my inspiration and you will be for the rest of my life. With you in my life, there's nothing more I need. With your smile, you take my breath away. With your love, you have conquered me and the world. With your spirit, you have made impossible things possible. With your courage, you have made it up to here. With your faith, you have done so much. You have taught me how to believe. God is good. Being with you makes me the happiest human being on earth. Thanks for being my son and let me be the father I am. Love you through the end, there is no end. Papi. Luillo, no matter your condition of muscular dystrophy, you learn how to live life with it, and beside that, you never complain about it. You never gave up. You battled it like a real warrior, and nothing stopped you from reaching out your dreams. You achieved all the goals that you have in mind. You did it, Luillo. There were no obstacles for you, just challenges. And every time these challenges came, you confront them and successfully got through them. And this gave you more strength to go for the next one. You were so powerful. You never gave up. Luillo, with you in my life, I was the happiest human being on earth. You taught me so many things. Among these things, you taught me how to live life without fear. You taught me how to be a father, one of the best. And we found together the meaning of unconditional love. It was you and me both serious condition, and we never had excuses to stop living life as happy as we could. With your lovely smile, you conquered the world. How to believe your happiness and your smile in that wheelchair most of your time. You were teaching a lot of people that there's no limits for you and no excuses to stop dreaming big. You were always after your goals. You opened and got inside so many people's hearts with your smile and your desire of living without limitations, and you did it with no intentions. You made others smile, and that was another blessing. With that smile and your unconditional love, I didn't need much more. Just you, my Luillo. Because of the way you saw things and the way you decided to live life, you made so many things possible that for others were impossible for you to do. That spirit that you had is the one I need for the rest of my life. It will help me a lot to go through this pain as well. I'm so proud of you, Luillo. Besides that great spirit that you had, your courage helped you achieve so many things and goals in your short but beautiful life. I know you had much more things to do and to give out in your life, but I guess it was your time to go with God. God needed a special angel to help him, and you were chosen among others by him. Your faith got through so many challenges and situations without any fear, always with God at your side. You taught me how to believe. Thank you, Luillo, for being my son, for being the most important person in my life, for being my best friend and always there for me. Thanks for being Luillo, for your existence in my life for those 26 years we shared together. You made me the happiest father in the world. Thanks for being so special and being everything in my life. The one and only Luillo. I will never stop loving you. I miss you every second in my life. Life is not the same without you, but I can promise you I will live it without fear and like it was my last day on it. In honor to you and all you did for my life, I will try to live it happy like you did. Love you, my Luillo, forever, papi. I want to thank God. I want to thank Anna for giving me the best child in the world. I want to thank life. Special thanks to my psychologist, Giannina del Toro, my case manager, Ania Gibbs, to all my friends that have been on top of me and giving me support in my worst moment in my life. Thanks for being part of our life. A mi familia Bermúdez, párense por favor, a Claudia, a mi nena, las amo, las adoro. Sin ustedes yo no estaría aquí. If there were not for them, for my family, I wouldn't be here. So thank you, Claudia, Isabela, Daniela, Mami, Jay, Eric, Maggie, I love you forever. Thank you. This is my Luillo, and look the happiness and the face of the smile that he had forever. This is for you.
I would like to call up Ashley Dean, sister of Cassie Bilodeau Stratton.
Good afternoon. My name is Ashley Dean, and I'm the big sister of Cassie Bilodeau Stratton. And since Cassie's passing, life has been very difficult for our family. But we hold a lot of gratitude for all the first responders and just everyone that helped. We appreciate everyone. Cassie and I were very close, and our sister theme was Frozen. And she'd call me up in the middle of the night. Do you want to build a snowman? So now I think we're building sandcastles in the skies. I'm going to miss Cassie. Hey, Mom. And my brother-in-law is taking wonderful care of my niece. We all have spent this past year struggling with the pain and the sorrow for a while now. And moving forward, we want to remain strong now. We want to honor Cassie now. We want to honor 98. We're all 98 now. We're all family. We've been unified. I appreciate, and my family appreciates, the change that will come with this type of tragedy. The new 4D bill marks the horizon of things to come so that nothing like this ever happens again to any family, and that Cassie's life will save thousands, if not millions, in the lives of everyone that were lost that day. Thank you all for coming today. I appreciate all the love, and I will always stand strong for my 98 family. 98. Thank you.
I'd like to call up Raquel Oliveria, wife of Alfonso Leon, who was 48, and mother of Lorenzo, who was 5.
My name is Raquel Oliveira. I am a Brazilian. I lived for 37 years in Rio de Janeiro. And I moved to the U.S. when our son Lorenzo was born, because we were looking for a safer place for him to live. In June 24th of 2021, at 4 o'clock in the morning, my phone rang. My friend on the other end of the line asked me to stay calm, but it looked like something had happened in my building. It looks like a part of your building has collapsed, she said. At that moment, I remember that my first question, feeling fear in my whole body, was, where is my son? After her silence, I couldn't say anything else. I was breathless, and my voice wouldn't come out to tell my mom, who was with me, what had happened. After that minute, my life turned into a succession of events in autopilot. I had to give my DNA to identify my son, who 27 days before had turned 5 years old, with a garden party at Champlain Towers, right here where all of you are sitting, for more than 60 people, children and parents. It was the first party after the pandemic, and everybody was really happy to be here. For weeks, I attended the morning and afternoon meetings in search for the corpses of my partner and my son, who I saw for the last time on June 23rd last year, right before traveling. Exactly 365 days ago, my house imploded, collapsed, with everything and everyone inside but me. It took my family 2 weeks to be found. Their bodies were decomposed. They were cremated in a white paper box, and I still remember the smell coming out of the box. I wrote a message on each box before they went. to be cremated. But with Alfredo Leone, my partner, and Lorenzo de Oliveira Leone, my son, 96 other people were gone. And instead of commemorating the deaths of all of them, I want them to be remembered for who they were in life. They didn't die. Their lives were interrupted. I wish each of us could get to the point where we can use the pain that filled us as an impetus to make their presence eternal. Everyone will find their own way. We already have people creating foundations to help with the mental health of each of us. We already have people writing books, others on a tireless path to change the laws so that other families don't go through this. Yesterday, I read of a grandson that created a line of cigars to honor his grandparents that came from Cuba. I always try to teach Lorenzo that we must be intentional, that we must be aware of the consequences of our decisions. We must be accountable in the lives of those we cross, in the community, on the planet. I hope each one of us finds our purpose. I still can't think about my future, and my purpose is still out there. My home isn't ready yet. I still live with a suitcase around the world. Exactly 365 days ago, my house imploded, my home collapsed with everything and everyone inside but me. I am alive and I have the chance to rediscover something that motivates me to smile again, to fight, to be a whole person. Maybe we don't know it yet, but we cannot give up. We need answers, we need justice, we need something that I hate the word that is patience. And to find a personal way to make up for it all and to live again. Recognize the privileges that we have, recognize the weaknesses, learn, improve, and move on. It's not easy to go on without those we love. For those who were there that night, it will not be easy to go back to sleep peacefully after hearing cries for help, running down collapsing stairs, waiting for rescue on the balcony of a collapsing building. We are a village. We go through devastating moments, but together we can do a lot. Let's not give up justice, love, gratitude, forgiveness. Let's not give up life. We have not come this far to just come this far. Thank you.
I'd like to call up Kevin Spiegel, husband of Judy Spiegel.
Dr. Biden, elected officials, pre-hospital care providers, the United States Search and Rescue, the Israeli Defense Force, Rabbi Lipsker, and all the Surfside families. Good morning. This has been the most difficult year in my life and my family's life as my wife, Judith Ann Spiegel, Yehudit Bas Mordechai, was killed in the Champlain Tower collapse alongside your 97 loved ones. 8777 Collins Avenue, apartment 603, was my home, and our family lost everything. I know what it means to feel profound loss, and 1 year later, time has not healed my broken heart. Like all of you, I carry this extreme void with me because Judy's life was taken away from us so abruptly. Judy was the matriarch of our family. I did not even know where our bank account was. I was lost and continued to struggle daily, just like all of you. Judy was the CEO of our family. She supported me in my career. She is responsible for being the best mother to my 3 children, Rachel, Michael, and Joshua, my son-in-law, Seth, and my daughter-in-law, Laura. I love you all. She also helped care for my 90-year-old mother. She was passionate about supporting her friends. Dr. June Scobie Rogers, whose previous husband was the commander of the Challenger. Judy would travel with June to NASA-related events regarding Challenger and the Challenger Center. Judy was a student of the Holocaust. Her friend Eva Schloss, a Holocaust survivor who grew up on the same street of Anne Frank in Amsterdam. After the war, Eva's mother married Otto Frank, which makes Eva Anne Frank's stepsister. Judy traveled with Eva throughout this country. Eva would give lectures to children and adults about the Holocaust, and Judy would be there for her because every time was such a difficult time for her. It has been extremely hard not waking up next to my best friend every morning. As I am grieving my profound loss, what has given me strength throughout this past year is people that were there for me during the loss, this tragic loss. We have visited cities in New York, Southampton, Memphis, Chattanooga, Panama City, Panama, where we sponsored the kiddishes in Judy's memory and talked about her life, and Surfside. We wanted to do something really significant, so we decided, all of my family, we went to Israel. We wanted to go to Israel to meet with our family, but more importantly, to thank the Surfside IDF from the Home Front Command. We thought that was a very important thing for our healing. And we went there and we met with Colonel Golan and General Gordon and the Home Front Command. We got to go through one of their training exercises and be there while they trained. And they even made us falafel. Thank you. But that was very important for us. The mayor of Bal Harbour, Gabe Grossman, came to that event as well. And even we had Shabbos with the Prime Minister. These were unbelievable part of our healing, and our family is committed to give back to those who gave to us. I want to also acknowledge Dr. Dario Gonzalez from the New York USART team and Dr. Joe Holly from the Tennessee USART team. I knew both Dario and Joe from my work as a pre-hospital care provider and the commander from the New York DMAT team. Both gentlemen knew Judy and loved her and came to her funeral as well. Judy loved her family. She loved her family and friends, and she was the fabric that kept all of us together. She had a heart of gold. Judy taught us everything about life. She taught us about Yiddishkeit, the importance of a Jewish education, and supported Israel. She was the most loyal person I have ever met and always found fun in everything she did. If there is one thing I can leave everyone with today, is that hope to inspire everyone to be more like Judy. Life is short, and we need to focus on people we love. I hope we can remember Judy's beautiful spirit and smile. I love you all. I love all the families. God bless America, and God bless the state of Israel. Thank you. Hi, Brianna.
I would like to call up Martin Langesfeld, brother of Nikki Langesfeld.
It is in our hardest moments when we realize how fortunate we once were. It is in our lowest moments when we try to put reality into a perspective which we will never find a clear answer for. Looking back at this past year, we can all agree that we have tried to wake up from this nightmare, yet realize that we have no choice but to accept this nightmare as the unchangeable reality we were thrown into and will never understand why. A lot has occurred this past year, but one thing is for sure. We realize how valuable our time in this short life is. Looking over this deep, empty hole next to us fills our insides with helpless pain, unanswered questions, and memories that will never be forgotten. Now within us, we also have a hole now, which could not be repaired with anything but time. And even then, we are not sure if time will heal, because this is not something one has ever lived through. As life goes on, we will never find a way to cover the scars created within us. But what we will do is slowly find a way in learning how to walk around the hole forever engraved within us. The hole that took away countless innocent loved ones. As I speak, I could do nothing but remember that big, bright, beautiful smile my sister Nikki carried with her. And many times that big, bright smile was next to the man she loved, who were both ready to start their lives in a place they called home. I have absolutely no doubt in my mind that each and every person standing and sitting in front of me could come up here and speak endlessly about how beautiful, admired, and impactful their loved ones were and continue to be. And that is exactly what they all deserve. Nikki, just like the 97 others that were taken together, left their marks in this world in an unexplainable way. We will never comprehend. But they need to know that down here, regardless at what age they were taken, those lives have impacted the world in such a way that will change how systems work. Not only the legislative system. I'm talking about the system of life. The system where we as a community learned we could not take one single second for granted. Because one day, when we least expect it, that 1 second will be our last second. And what we leave behind is the light and love which follow our legacy. Now behind me are very well-respected individuals who worked extremely hard to get to where they are. And no matter when their last days are, they have already made an impact one way or another. Speaking by your side, I would like to say thank you for showing us that sometimes behind cameras, there could be people, real people with emotions. And as I say that, I would also like to mention how we know that none of you expected to be involved in this tragedy. None of us did. But as you worked hard to get where you are and where you currently sit, we ask for your help. Please help us in finding answers. We need them. Please help us in working together with the developer who purchased this land let's find a way to incorporate a fitting memorial on a portion of the collapsed site. It's where our loved ones took their last breath, and it's the least we can do as a country to honor and respect where they called home. A simple gesture like this will not only bring peace to us, but will show the world that no matter what happens in the United States of America, we respect the space where our innocent loved ones were taken, not build over them. And this is meant with no disrespect whatsoever. I'm just a brother looking for honor and respect for those who are no longer with us. Thank you.
One of the greatest spiritual leaders of our time, Rabbi Menachem Mendel Schneerson, said, "The deepest potential is found in our brokenness, insecurities, and emotional wounds." When the Champlain Towers came down and our town was broken, we all came together. There were many heroes born in the aftermath of this great tragedy. The Surfside Commission just recently passed a proclamation that proclaims the month of June 2022 as Surfside Heroes Appreciation Month here in Surfside. This proclamation has a paragraph for each of the organizations and individuals being recognized here today. In addition, we have created a challenge coin to commemorate this special day, which will be presented to these individuals. The coin has the image of two hands reaching out to each other. The image the hands make as they touch each other is a representation of the infinity sign, symbolizing that the memories of the 98 souls will live on in our hearts forever. On behalf of the town of Surfside community and those that were affected, I would like to recognize several outstanding individuals and organizations that were integral in their own way in responding to this tragedy, starting with our beloved first responders. I would like to recognize the entire Surfside Police Department for their actions and valiant efforts. For their actions and valiant efforts on the night of the collapse. As the first responders on the scene, their quick actions and professionalism in the face of chaos and tragedy no doubt saves lives as they led people away from the building to safety. Accepting on behalf of the Surfside Police Department, I would like to call up Officer Joseph Matthews, Officer Greg Lovett, and Officer Ariel Leish, and Officer Camille Gambirazio, who were the first to respond to the scene that terrible night. As with any catastrophe, minor or major, our fire rescue is always there on the front lines, putting their lives in jeopardy to save lives of others. During this unprecedented event, fire rescue teams across South Florida came together expeditiously and effectively with one goal in mind: the safety of the survivors, and to immediately begin the search and rescue. Leading the charge was Miami-Dade Fire Rescue. On behalf of Miami-Dade Fire Rescue, I would like to call up Captain Taft Parker, Lieutenant Jennifer Curlin, and Battalion Chief Victoria Bird. No words can adequately describe the dedication, care, professionalism of the urban search and rescue teams, otherwise known as USAR. From the moment they were called upon from across the country and for the weeks that followed, they were searching relentlessly 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, through dangerous and challenging conditions, digging through fire, smoke, and shifting rubble and debris. They did not stop. They did not sleep. They cried, they consoled, and they continued their mission with focus and determination. Accepting on behalf of the urban search and rescue teams, I would like to call up from Florida Task Force 1, Maggie Castro,